Hello everyone and welcome to AWS Security Services Selection or Decision Guide Part 1. This is one of the most important lecture of the entire course. I will go as far as saying that if you watch this lecture completely and pay attention, then you will most likely be able to answer all the security related questions. Most exam questions will ask you to pick the right security service or will try to confuse you or trick you into choosing between similar security services. So if you go through this lecture, then hopefully you will be able to tell the differences or similarities between these security services clearly. So this lecture will contain all these topics, and first and two topics are in the part 1, which is this lecture, and third and fourth will be in the part 2. So first we will have service category, the primary function and purpose of the AWS service, and lastly scope of operation. The next set of parameters will be key data sources or the inputs, primary outputs and artifacts, and data residency and processing location. And the services which are covered are AWS Artifact, AWS Audit Manager, AWS Certificate Manager, AWS Cloud HSM, AWS Cloud Trail, Amazon Cognito, AWS Config, AWS Control Tower, Amazon Detective, AWS Firewall Manager, Amazon Guard Duty, AWS Identity and Access Management, AWS IAM Identity Center, which was previously known as AWS Single Sign-On SSO, Amazon Inspector, AWS Key Management Service, Amazon Macie, AWS Network Firewall, AWS Organizations, AWS Payment Cryptography, AWS Private Certificate Authority, AWS Resource Access Manager, AWS Secrets Manager, AWS Security Hub, Amazon Security Lake, AWS Shield, and AWS Web Application Firewall. So first set of parameters will be service category, primary function and purpose, and scope of operation. So first we have AWS Artifact. It belongs to category which is compliance and audit. And the primary function and purpose is to provide on-demand access to AWS compliance reports such as SOC, SOC, ISO, PCI, and agreements like BAA. And the scope is, it's a global, so it's available through the AWS portal, and reports cover specific regions or the global infrastructure. And SOC, SOC System and Organization Controls. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. PCI is Payment Card Industry, and BAA stands for Business Associate Addendum. Next, we have AWS Audit Manager. It belongs to compliance and audit category. The primary function or the purpose is to automate evidence collection for audits against compliance frameworks. And the scope of operation is regional. It is regional assessments. Can use data from multiple AWS accounts. Next service is AWS Certificate Manager, ACM. The category it belongs to is certificate management. The primary function or the purpose is to provision, manage, deploy public and private SSL TLS certificates, and the scope is regional for the standard certificates and global for the US East for CloudFront service. Next we have AWS Cloud HSM. It belongs to service category which is key management or hardware security. Primary function and the purpose is to provide dedicated FIPS 142 Level 3 validated HSMs for secure key storage and cryptographic operations. Scope of operation is regional and it is deployed in customer VPCs availability zones. And FIPS stands for Federal Information Processing Standards. HSM stands for Hardware Security Module. Next we have AWS Cloud Trail. It belongs to service category which is logging and monitoring / audit. Primary function and purpose is to record AWS account activity which includes API calls, console actions, and service events. Scope of operation is regional, which is the default. There is a global option which is optional, so you can opt for it, and organization wide, which is also optional. So if you are using AWS organizations, you can opt for this service. Next, Amazon Cognito. It belongs to category identity management. and this is for customer. So customer takes care of identity management of this particular service. And the function, primary function and the purpose is to provide identity, which are user pools, and access control, which are identity pools. So user pools is identity data, and access control is the identity pools is the access control part of it. And this is for web and mobile applications. Scope of operation is regional. Next service is AWS config, and the service category is compliance and audit and governance/governance. Primary function and purpose is to track resource configurations, evaluate compliance against rules, and record any changes. Scope of operation is regional for the recorder/rules. So these are the two components, and also cross region for a component which is aggregator component. Next service is AWS control tower. Service category is governance and account management. Primary function and purpose is to set up and govern a secure multi-account AWS environment, and that includes landing zone also. Scope of operation is regional for the home region, but it can govern organization-wide resources. Next service is Amazon Detective, and the service category is threat detection and investigation. Primary function and purpose is to analyze logs and visualize resource behavior/interactions for the security investigations. Scope of operation is regional. Next service is AWS Firewall Manager. Service category is network security and governance. Primary function and purpose is to centrally manage firewalls rules from web application firewalls, Shield Advanced, security groups, network firewall, DNS firewall across the organization. Scope of operation is global for the policy management and can be both regional/global for enforcement. Next service is Amazon Guard Duty. Service category is threat detection. Primary function and purpose is continuously monitor for malicious activity and unauthorized behavior. Scope of operation I forgot to talk is it's a regional. Next, AWS IAM, that is AWS Identity and Access Management, and the service category is Identity and Access Management. Primary function and purpose is securely manage access to AWS services and resources for workforce and workloads. Scope of operation is global. Next, we have AWS IAM Identity Center, and also service category is same, Identity and Access Management. Primary function and purpose is to provide centralized workforce SSO, single sign-on access to AWS accounts and cloud applications. Scope of operation is regional for the instance-based, and it can manage global/regional access. Next service is Amazon Inspector. Service category is vulnerability management. Primary function and purpose is to automatically scan the AWS workloads for software vulnerabilities and network exposure. Scope of operation is regional. Next service is AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS. Service category is key management/key encryption service. Primary function and purpose is to create and control encryption keys used to encrypt data. Scope of operation is regional. Next service is Amazon Macie. Service category is data security/compliance. Primary function and purpose is to discover, classify, and protect sensitive data stored in Amazon S3. Scope of operation is regional. Next service is AWS Network Firewall. Service category is network security. Primary function or the purpose is to deploy stateful network firewall and intrusion prevention systems IPS for VPC traffic filtering. Scope of operation is regional but it regional, and it is deployed in VPCs, availability zones, AZs. Next, services AWS organizations. Service category is part of governance management or account management. Primary function or the purpose is to centrally manage multiple AWS accounts, apply governance policies known as SCPs, which are service control policies. Scope of operation is global because this is organization management, and policies affect both regional as well as global resources. Next, services AWS payment cryptography. Service category is key management and payment security. Primary function and purpose is to provide PCI compliant cryptography functions and key management for payments. Scope is regional, and PCI stands for Payment Card Industry. Next, services AWS Private Certificate Authority. Service category is certificate management and PKI, public key infrastructure. Primary function and purpose is to create and manage private certificate authority hierarchies for internal PKIs. Scope of operation is regional. Next, services AWS Resource Manager, Resource Access Manager, AWS RAM. Category is governance management or resource management. Primary function and purpose is securely share AWS resources across AWS accounts or within an organization. Scope of operation is regional resources, and global. So global will reside in US East for global. Next, services AWS Secrets Manager. Service category is secret management and key management. Primary function and purpose is to manage, retrieve, and rotate secrets, and these secrets can be credentials, API keys, or tokens. Scope of operation is regional. Next, services AWS Security Hub. Service category is security posture management. Primary function and purpose is to provide a comprehensive view of security state, aggregate findings, and run compliance checks. Scope of operation is regional for the findings and cross-region for the aggregation view. Next, services Amazon Security Lake. Service category is log management and security analytics. Primary function and the purpose is to centralize, normalize, which is OCSF, and store security logs/events in a data lake. Scope of operation is regional storage, and it can collect from multiple regions. And OCSF stands for Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework. Next, services AWS Shield. Service category is DDoS protection. Primary function or the purpose is to provide managed distributed denial of service DDoS protection. Scope of operation is global/regional, depend on the protected resource. Next, services AWS Web Application Firewall, WAF. Service category is network security and web security. Primary function or purpose is to protect web applications from common web exploits like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and bots. Scope is global for the CloudFront resource, and it is regional for application load balancer, API gateway, and AppSync. And now we will go to the next set of parameters, which will be key data sources and inputs, primary outputs and artifacts, and data residency and processing location. So first we have AWS artifact, and key data sources or the inputs are AWS internal compliance processes, and the output it produces are compliance reports, which are PDFs or agreements, and data residency and processing happens globally through the global portal, and reports relate to regional and global infrastructure. Next, we have AWS Audit Manager. So key data sources and inputs are config rules, CloudTrail logs, Security Hub findings, and manual evidence. And output that it produces are audit evidence and assessment reports. and the residency where the data resides is regional for the assessments. Next, we have AWS Certificate Manager. Key data sources or inputs are domain names, CSRs, which are certificate signing request, and any imported certificates. And the output it produces are SSL TLS certificates and private keys, which are managed. And the residency data residency is global, is regional, and it is global for CloudFront only, because CloudFront is a global service, and every time you see global, the region it default region, or the not default, the region which you cannot change is US East 1. And SSL is secure sockets layer, and TLS is transport layer security. Next, we have AWS Cloud HSM. So key data sources or the inputs are key material, app data for crypto app data for crypto operations, and user credentials. And the outputs or the artifacts that it generates or produces are encrypted and decrypted data, signatures, keys, which is in hardware security module in HSM, and audit logs. And data residency is regional in the customer VPC, and it can be customer controlled. Next, we have AWS CloudTrail. Data sources are AWS API calls, console logins, and service events. And outputs are log files, which will be stored in S3, CloudWatch log events, event bridge events, lake query results. And data residencies are regional for storage and global for the events or the aggregations. Next, we have Amazon Cognito. Data sources are user attributes, credentials, and identity provider configs. And outputs are identity tokens, access tokens or refresh tokens, temporary AWS credentials, and user profiles. Data residency is regional. Next, we have AWS config. Data sources are resource config state changes and config rules. Outputs are config items, history, compliance status, notifications, and reports. Data residency is regional for the recorder/rules, and cross-region view for the aggregator. Next, we have AWS Control Tower. Data sources are organization structure, account configs, and control selections. Outputs are governed accounts, OU structure, applied guardrails, and compliance dashboard. Residency is regional for the home region, and it can govern regional/global resources. Amazon Detective. Data sources are CloudTrail, VPC flow logs, guard duty findings, Elastic Kubernetes Service EKS audit logs, and security lake. Outputs are finding group visualization, investigation summaries, and entity profiles. Residency is regional. AWS Firewall Manager. Data sources are security policies like Web Application Firewall, WAF, etc. Resource scope, config data. Outputs are applied firewall rules, compliance reports, and notifications. Residency is global for the policy management and regional/global for the enforcement. Next, we have Amazon Guard Duty. Data sources are CloudTrail, VPC flow logs, DNS logs, EKS audit logs, S3 data, and RDS login, and any runtime events. And outputs are security findings and alerts, which can be event bridge or SNS alerts. Residency is regional. Next, we have AWS IAM. Data sources are user definitions, group definitions, or role definitions, policies, credentials, and tags. And the outputs are authentication status, authorization decisions like allow or deny, and temporary credentials, which is through Security Token Service STS. Residency is global. Next, we have AWS IAM Identity Center, and the data sources or the key inputs are user/group information, permission sets, account assignments or application assignments. And outputs are SSO, single sign-on access, temporary IAM role credentials, and residency in regional. Next, we have Amazon Inspector. Data sources are EC2 state, ECR layers, Lambda code, network information, and SBOM. Outputs are vulnerability findings, network exposure findings, and reports. And residency is regional. Next, we have AWS Key Management Service, KMS. Data inputs or data sources are data via services, key policies, grants, imported key material, which is optional, and the outputs or artifacts that we get is encrypted data keys, decrypted data via services, and audit logs. Residency is regional. Next, we have Amazon Macy. The data sources are S3 objects, bucket policies, ACS access control list, custom identifiers, and allow list. And the outputs or artifacts that it produces are sensitive data findings, policy findings, S3 inventory, S3 stats, and reports. Residency regional. Next, we have AWS Network Firewall. Data sources are network packets, which is from VPC traffic, firewall policies, and rule groups. Outputs are filtered network traffic and logs, which can be flow or alert. Residency is regional in the VPC. Next, we have AWS organizations. Data sources are account information, organizational unit overview structure, and policy definitions. Outputs are managed account structure, enforced policies, and consolidated bill. Residency is global for the organization structure, and policies affect regional and both regional as well as global. Next, we have AWS payment cryptography. Data sources are payment data, keys, cryptographic operations request, and outputs are encrypted, decrypted payment data, validation results, and translated pins and logs. Residency is regional. Next, we have AWS Private Certificate Authority. Data sources are CA config, CSRs, and certificate templates. And outputs are private X509 certificates, CRLs, and audit reports. Residency is regional. And CRLs is certificate revocation list. And X509 is a type of certificate, or it's a very standard type format. It's a X509 standard for public key infrastructure. Next, we have AWS Resource Access Manager. Data sources are resource ARNs, Amazon resource names, principal IDs, and managed permissions. And outputs are resource shares, invitations, shared resource access. Residency is regional for the regional resources and global, which is in US East 1. Next, we have AWS Secrets Manager. Data sources are secret values, rotation config, resource policies, KMS key ID. Outputs are secret values which are retrieved, rotated secrets, audit logs. Residency regional. Next, we have AWS Security Hub. Data sources are findings from guard duty, inspector, etc. and compliance checks from the AWS config service. And what outputs or artifacts that we get are aggregated findings, security scores, compliance status, insights, and events. Residency is regional for the findings, and cross-region aggregation view is also available. Next, we have Amazon Security Lake. Key data sources or the inputs are logs/events from AWS or third party or any custom sources also. And what outputs we get are normalized logs, which can be in OC, SF, or Parquet format, and that will be stored in S3. Then subscriber access and query results. Residency is regional for the storage, and it can collect cross-region AWS account access, cross-region only. And OCSF is Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework. Next, we have AWS Shield. Input data sources are network traffic, health checks from Shield Advanced, and WAF rules from Advanced. And the outputs that we get are mitigated DDoS traffic, event summaries, matrix, DRT support, and the residency is global/regional, depends on the protected resource. And DRT stands for DDoS Response Team. And next service is AWS Web Application Firewall. Data sources or the inputs are HTTP or HTTPS, web request, web ACLs, IP sets or reject sets that we all configure or provide. And outputs that we get are filtered web traffic, logs, matrix, and labels. Residency is global for the CloudFront and regional for application load balancer, API gateway, and AppSync. And that's all. Thanks for watching.